Hello, Unity community, and welcome back to another official live stream here on the Twitch and YouTube channels, the official Twitch and YouTube channels of Unity. My name is Jackson. I'm one of your community managers, and I'm responsible for all of the live stream content that we bring to you each and every week. We are live every Thursday at 9 a.m. unless otherwise noted, which this will be the last stream of the year, and we will catch you guys again in the new year. It's great to have you all here. If you are watching live, I want you to be aware this is a conversation. We are seeing your messages. We are paying attention. We want you to be involved. One of the great things about these live streams is not only can you learn something and be inspired by the conversations and the guests and the topics, but you get to connect with each other and with the Unity team directly. So we want you guys to be chatting in here. If you have questions, if you have inquiries, I want to connect you with the team and bring those up on your behalf. So please engage, chat, ask questions, throw emotes, whatever it may be. If you are watching this later as a VOD, a video on demand, we will have chaptered the video nicely for you at the bottom. If you want to skip ahead to parts that appeal to you a little bit more intimately or a little bit more directly, feel free to do that. It should make the experience nice and easy for you. So it is exciting to have you all here. Today, we will be joined by the Unity professional training team, and they will be walking us through the process of creating a ragdoll. I see a number of questions about what is a ragdoll, and I think we can let the team answer that in the most succinct way possible, although I do see you guys helping each other and answering questions already, which I love to see. Of course, as we approach the holiday season, we thought it was appropriate to put a little bit of a festive spin on this stream, a little bit more about that soon. But before we dive into the meat and potatoes of the stream, we got a little bit of housekeeping for you all. So again, thank you for being here at this stream. As I mentioned, we will be taking a break from the streams. I did see somebody saying, oh, so Unity takes a break for the holidays? Not everybody. Everybody has their own kind of schedule, and everybody is working in some capacity or another. But for me specifically, it doesn't really make sense to continue to put on live stream content when people consume less live stream content. If you guys are no longer working, if you're spending time with family and friends, which I am hopeful that you are, the stream doesn't get the same attendance, and the work put in becomes challenging, especially as the people that we would rely on to create the content are also on different breaks and those types of things. So just that heads up, we will be back in early January. Right now, we've got a stream that we're planning for January 9th, which will be very fun. And then we'll be kicking off a lot of content around Global Game Jam in January. So make sure to mark it in your calendars and come back and see us. Again, Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific time is the plan for now. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we would like to be doing more streams in the new year. So if that's something that you guys would be excited for, please let us know in the chat. We want to keep bringing you content that you connect with, that you enjoy. And I know we put out a poll in the last stream that we did. Maybe we'll do it again today, just inquiring about what type of content you guys want to see. Raphael asking in the YouTube chat, where can we see the topic and dates? The Discord is probably your best bet, or if you want to, keep an eye on the live tab on the Unity YouTube page. That's where I update all of the events as far in advance as I can. So right now, again, going into the holiday break, it will appear empty. I might put a placeholder in there so you guys know when we're coming back, but ultimately in early January, we'll have all of that information updated and ready for you to go. Another piece of housekeeping here, a very important one. On the Twitch side of things, we now have emotes. That's right. If you follow this channel on the Twitch platform, you will have access to Unity-specific emotes. I didn't know this until a few months ago, but Unity has a mascot of kinds called Unity-chan. And there's a bunch of already existing small graphics, and we turn those into emotes. So if you're following over there, you now have access to a handful of those things, as well as a classic Unity logo, because you got to have one of those. But again, all in our effort to essentially just build out the space, make it really calm, warm, cozy. You guys are already doing it. You're doing it well over there on the Twitch side. Again, we're watching both on Twitch and YouTube. I would love to hear where you guys are tuning in from. Like we've got Tipsy Monk here and Macalo Wow on the Twitch side, alongside our regulars as well, of course. Great to see you all. On the YouTube side, we're seeing Graphic Quest. We've got Lost Toll over in Finland. We've got some representation in the Ukraine. Congratulations, everybody. Welcome on in. So good to have you here. What we're going to get into today, again, is going to be a little bit more technical. Hopefully you can walk away from this and use the information right away and build something excellent with it. We're going to be creating a ragdoll. We're going to show off a little bit of an input system for you all to familiarize yourselves with, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun with said ragdoll. So lots to take away from here. And again, shout out to everybody all around the world here: Brazil, Turkey, Romania, Arizona, the far, far off land, the mysterious land of Arizona. We've got India, California, we've got Iraq, Poland, Czech, great to see you. Mexico, hola, welcome on in, everybody. Thank you for being here. All right. That's a lot of talking for one individual to do, and I'm sure you're sick of hearing my voice. So without further ado, I would love to welcome in the pro training team here. We are bringing in the squad. Everybody, please say hello to Zane and Sarah. Welcome on in. How the heck are you today?
We're doing great.
Good. I'm very glad to have you here. I'm very excited. We basically started planning this 2 months ago. The first idea was floated out. Hey, what if we did a little bit of live stream content? So I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be fantastic. We've been building, we've been working, we've been trying hard for it. So let's back up and get people to know you a little bit before we dive in and pick your massive wrinkly brains about ragdolls and ragdoll physics and that sort of stuff. So to help people get to know you a little bit, we'll start with Zane and then move to Sarah, because we'll go counterclockwise, or Canadian clockwise, as I like to call it. Please tell us who you are, what you do at Unity, and what is a game that inspires you?
Ooh. Yeah. So, hi, y'all. My name is Zane. I'm coming to y'all from Atlanta, Georgia. I may say y'all quite a bit as I speak, since there's lots of you. I am a senior technical trainer, so my job is to teach people how to use Unity. I go out to different places around the world and conduct classrooms online to teach people tons of different aspects about how the editor works, how to program, how to make art, how to run game jams, all kinds of things along those lines. Love what I do. It's tons of fun. The pro training team is dedicated to making sure that people know how to use Unity. And we look at this from a perspective of what it's like to work professionally. Whether you are making video games, whether you're making CAD simulations, whether you are an educational institution trying to teach people how to use Unity, we take a look at that business aspect and try and make people better at using the tool.
Love it. That's very solid. I don't know if you were reading off a script, but like that felt well rehearsed. It didn't feel like you were reading from a script.
I've said this like twice.
Okay. Oh. Wow. Oh, wow. I thought you were gonna be like, I say this every day, and like I'm pretty familiar with the shtick, but that was pretty impressive. Zane, what's a game that inspires you?
Ooh. So the game that got me into wanting to make games was Sonic 2. I beat the game,
no way.
saw the credits, and was like, wait a minute. I was 9, and these are the names of the people that made the game. I want to be one of those names too. And it was just a downhill spiral from there. Got magazines, and just continued to study game development, went to college, all that stuff. Now look, doing things. My mom was proud.
That's great. I like it a lot. That's very cool. Thank you so much, Zane. Lovely to introduce you to everybody. I was going to say lovely to meet you, but we've met a number of times. So let's move on and pay all of our attention here to Sarah. Sarah, who are you? What do you do? What's a game that inspires you?
Yeah, for sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Sarah. I'm a content producer with the pro training team. So essentially what my job is that I create the on-demand video content. So it's basically like a structured learning course, which you can... Oh, and I lost my train of thought. Well, that's going to happen a lot during this stream, so you better get used to it.
Okay.
But
Sarah, you've been planning hard here. You've been working for it. So like, hey, take whatever time you need here.
For sure. Yeah, this live stream, I'm not normally doing big streams. I'm usually doing pre-recorded content, which you can find on the pro training platform. So this is a little bit different for me, but I think it'll go well. I think we're all gonna be okay. And a game that inspires me, I'm gonna follow the Sonic trend here, and I think the first video game that really got me into development was playing Sonic Adventure on the GameCube. Didn't have a Dreamcast,
no way,
had a
okay.
GameCube, but that game was so much fun, and it's not even like a nostalgia thing. I go back now and I play it, and it's still like the best thing ever. I know people hate it. Some people don't like it.
There's some haters. Yeah,
I know. There's some real haters out there, but it's a good game.
Yeah, no, I agree. And since we're sharing Sonic stories and mine's so closely aligned to yours, Sarah, when I was in middle school, I went out and I sold a PlayStation 1 to buy a Dreamcast explicitly to play Sonic Adventures, because to me on the Dreamcast, they had the really cool thing. And let me know in chat if you remember this or if I'm dating myself, but your memory card that came out had a screen and buttons on it. So you could take your Chow, like the little in-game creatures, and basically take them with you as a Tamagotchi. And someone in my middle school brought that to school, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I was like, sell my PlayStation, sell the games I have. I need this now. So in a way, that's a super like unique approach, especially for that era of games that I fell in love with for sure as well. So Sarah, Zane, again, thank you both for being here. Thank you for those introductions. That's fantastic. Now we're doing something a little bit unique here, and that pro training is typically a paid service, but you guys came in and decided to say, hey, what if we put on like a free showcase and we give a little sample of what we do here, and we do it with a larger audience on the Twitch side. But who is professional training a good fit for? Who are the people that you typically work with of our audience that's watching? If they're interested, what should they do?
So who we typically work with is companies. They can be small companies. We work with indie studios a fair amount, although it's once they're kind of starting to get like 20 people or so. We work with full teams. Usually our classrooms are about the size of 15, and so we're kind of looking to fill that. So once you kind of reach that point, we'll come out. You can work with us. We'll get you set up so that maybe your team is growing, or maybe your team needs to learn a new tech like dots. Maybe you are a government institution or know of one, whether that is like a private-public partnership or a school where you're wanting to upskill your professors, or even give extracurricular courses, short-term courses for your students. If those are the types of people that we work with. And if you're wanting to find out more information about how to get in contact, you can reach out to me. It's really easy. You can find me on LinkedIn. It is my name that's there. I am the senior technical trainer in Atlanta, not the guy in Dallas. There's a guy named Zane Everett in Dallas, Texas, that is also a CS professor. I'm not him.
Wow. Shout out to Dallas Zane, though.
Right? Shout out. I've been following you. Not in any
there
kind
can
of
only
way,
be
right?
one.
I've Googled myself, and then he showed up, and I was like, wait a minute. That's not me.
Yeah.
So
okay.
But for the one that works for Unity, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. And if you do, just send a message. Hey, I saw you in the live stream. And then I'll know, oh, it's not just some stranger reaching out to me. So, and then I'll get you in contact with the right people, one of our salespeople.
Yes.
Perfect. I like it. It's sorry, I'm distracted by Sleepy Space Sloth on the Twitch side that just says a Highlander match when? For there can be only one.
I've not been to Dallas yet, but once that happens, we'll see.
Dallas is definitely, it's a place of all time.
It is a place. I've been to Austin a couple of times. Not made it to Dallas yet.
Love Austin. But again, thank you for that overview. Unity community watching, if this sounds like it's something that's appealing to you, I have put the pro training website in the chat here on both Twitch and YouTube sides. Feel free, go peruse, learn, explore, see if it's a good fit for you. If you have more questions, hey, Zane, we're making connections already here. Find them, LinkedIn, and yeah, love that. Is there anything else that you guys feel it's super important that people know about pro training before we dive into Ragdolls today?
Sarah, you mentioned ODT, right? Or on-demand training.
I did. Other than the Yeah, so other than the live training that we have that Zane does, we also have video content. We call it our on-demand content, which, as I mentioned, it's like a little bit more of a structured course than like a YouTube tutorial. So yeah, if you're interested in doing that, if you want to learn from home by yourself, you can definitely check out our on-demand content. You'll find a couple of videos from me on there. Wow. So yeah, if you're at all interested, protraining.unity.com. Give it a look.
Yeah, I think it's incredible, and Unity community, I can vouch for these two. I've been working with them to prepare this. They are ready. They're eager. They're prepared. They're very smart. They're very experienced. So you would be in fantastic hands. I think it's important to speak to the scope and scale a little bit. If we were in a different country or spoke a different language, how do you guys approach is there a global space that you guys operate within? Is it only English? How does that approach look?
So most of our training is English first. And all of our trainers, that is, we are teaching in English first. Now, if you are in Korea or Japan or somewhere else along those lines, we do have some content that has been localized, and we do have specific trainers around the world that do speak other languages. And so while we may approach you with an English first mentality, if that doesn't work for your studio, you can talk to us and work with us, and we'll see if we have a trainer that's able to speak French or Japanese or Korean or something else. We have because it's not just me. There are lots of people all over the world that we work with that we vouch for and trust. Shout out to all of our Unity certified instructors. They do wonderful services, and many of them have lots of different skills, including different languages.
Awesome. I think we have reached that point in time. I think we're ready to dive into the content, the meat and potatoes of the show, and really start people on a path of learning about ragdolls.
Nice.
So we can transition slowly here. And while we do that, Felipa asking, is Pro Training the official online learning platform of Unity? So Unity is kind of interesting in a number of ways because we also have learn content. Learn.unity.com gives you a lot of resources and learning pathways. There's an essentials pathway there for if you're just starting. So lots of different opportunities to learn. There's also ebooks and YouTube tutorials and those types of things. So this is a very, I want to say, hands-on and intimate way to go about developing your professional skill set. So lots of opportunities if you're out there taking a look. But with that being said, Sarah.
All right.
The time is now.
Wow.
Welcome, everybody, to our Winter Wonderland. Of course, we planned this a couple months ago, and we said, hey, we're going to do this in December. It's the holiday season. What if we go full nostalgia, full holiday season? Can we dive in here and get a little bit of Santa's workshop?
Yes.
And now look where we are.
So we have this beautiful winter village over here. We have, all the expectations you would have of the North Pole. But if we look over here, that's weird. Why does he have a cannon? And who is this guy over here? Well, I'll tell you. We're going to make this elf prefab into a ragdoll, and then we're going to shoot him out of this cannon. And that's what we're going to do today.
And honestly, I couldn't be more happy that this is the way we end the year. We end 2024. We put a button on it. We put a bow on top, and we say, hey, what if we launch a little elf out of a cannon?
Nothing is more in the Christmas spirit than this.
I think so too.
Because we don't have a ton of time, I'm just going to jump right into it. So I don't expect many people to follow along, only because I'm going to go a little fast. But, again, you can watch the VOD, you can pause, slow me down if you can't keep up. But that's okay. So these assets I actually got from the asset store from two awesome creators. And I believe, Jackson, you have the links for them that you're going to pop in there.
I've got the links because we also have C-Stron asking on the Twitch side, is this a project that we can download? Not necessarily, but here are all of the pieces if you wanted to go through and get them and construct them yourselves.
Yes, these are paid assets, so unfortunately I can't distribute these. However, you can always rip out the code and use it in another project. And again, you could always, grab a free model from the asset store if you want to experiment.
Of course.
So let's get started. I'm gonna unbig my scene tab here. So essentially, the first step is we have to come over to our hierarchy over here. Come over here, 3D object, and you're going to see this ragdoll option. And when you click it, this ragdoll wizard is going to pop up. And essentially, all it's going to do is it's going to assign colliders and rigid bodies to all of the different body parts of your model. So if I just exit out of this and expand my... Oh, yes.
Why is this useful?
Why is this useful?
Great question.
Yeah.
Great question.
Great question. Well, if you ever want to make a project or a game where any humanoid objects have like real life physics, if you're flinging them around or if they're falling off of things, this is probably the best way to do it. And the Ragdoll Wizard makes it so easy to do this. Like, I kid you not, we're going to get the Ragdoll done in like 5 minutes, and the rest of the time, we're just going to have fun.
I like it a lot. Also, Ragdoll Wizard immediately plays Pinball Wizard in my head. Lovely song. But just my brain puts Ragdoll in there, which I think is great. But there's also a number of games that are almost based around Ragdoll physics, right?
Yes.
And like the movement style. For me, the first one I think I remember, Skate, the skateboarding game, where there's a whole game mode where it's like throw yourself down the hill and ragdoll all the way down and try and cause as much destruction or damage as possible, right?
Yes.
So you kind of see this all over the place in different ways with a lot of games.
And Saints Row had insurance fraud. It was great.
Right, that's right. And then like GTA, once Wasted appears on the screen, you're just
exactly.
limp and bouncing around. So
and there's also games like Gang Beasts. If anyone's ever played that was
exactly
fun.
The Bull just called it out in YouTube as well. Gang Beasts.
Yes.
Party Animals a little bit similar as well, right? And actually, I just went to an event at Vancouver Film School and saw some student games, and one of them was it was a concept. It started as a Golden Girls brawler, and then became just like what do they call it? It was like retirement beatdown or something. So it was like retired fantasy adventurers, so like a mermaid and like an elf and all of these people, but in retirement, and it was very based on ragdoll physics and stuff as well.
That's
just really cool.
That's nuts, but that sounds so funny. Oh my god. So you could totally use Unity's ragdoll system to create something like that. So the first thing that you probably want to do when you're making a ragdoll is picking a model or configuring your model to where you have all of the parts here kind of separated out. So you can see I have different rigs for my legs, my spine, and inside of my spine, if I open up our hierarchy a little bit here, you can see that we have stuff for our shoulders, our neck. This is all like pretty standard stuff when you are rigging a character. And you can see that like I can control different parts of it. I can do like the forearm. Wow. How nice. So this is going to be
automatically takes the model and is like, cool, we know which part of the arm is the part of the arm that like it does a lot of the work for you, like you said.
So the actual model was already configured like this. This is normally what rigging a model does. You assign bones to certain parts of the model so that it can, move around. But what the Ragdoll Wizard does is, and if I go back to 3D Object Ragdoll, you can drag in all of these body parts to their corresponding box here, and then it will just assign all of the colliders and rigid bodies for you. So I'll just go ahead and show you. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I've already kind of figured out what should go where inside of these boxes. So I'm going to drag my hips into my pelvis because this is around where I want my pelvis on my character to be. This is like going to be the main center of gravity. And then for my left hips, I'm going to drag in my left up leg. And this is going to, that's not right. That's going to control like the entire leg as if it was, a hip joint. And from there, I'm going to attach my left leg to my left knee. Because if I show you, works like a knee. Close
Kind
enough.
of.
Yeah, close enough. And then I'm going to drag
interesting
my...
proportions on this elf. That causing maybe a little bit of a challenge here.
A little bit, but it still works, and it still looks just as goofy as I want it to.
Perfect.
And so I'm just going to go ahead and real quick speed run that for the other leg, any percent. And so for my left arm, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in my left arm and then left forearm for my elbow. Because if we play around with this, yeah, that's like roughly where the elbow is. We'll go with that. And I'm going to do the same for my right arm. There we go. And for my middle spine, I think I'll probably use this spine over here. I'm going to do that. And then for my head, I believe my head is under this neck joint over here. So I can just drag that in. And inside of this wizard, you can also adjust the total mass. So you can, I believe, and Zane, you can correct me on this. This is in kilograms.
That is correct. And 20
Yes.
kilograms seems
20
light
kilos.
for a normal adult, but this is an elf. So I don't know. Maybe they weigh the same as cotton candy.
Exactly.
Or maybe they have specific bone density that we're not aware of. You know what I mean?
Right, like candy.
Maybe they're heavy. Oh my god, that would be great.
I'm gonna leave it 20 for now because I kind of want him to fly. I want him to fly, baby.
And I guess we can play with this later, right? It makes that super easy. Just one
exactly.
or two numbers to change. Yeah.
Yes. And so I'm going to skip the strength for now because you don't want to really mess with that. And I'm also going to skip this flip forward. All that does is really change the direction that I believe your transforms are going to be initialized in, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. And I'm going to hit create. And now you'll notice that if I select my root object, we can see all of these colliders added to our model here. And this is all the Ragdoll creator does. A Ragdoll is not like a separate 3D object. It's not a component. All it is just a term for a collection of colliders and rigid bodies. So that's all the wizard does. And what you can do is if you're not too happy with how these look, you can actually go in and edit these colliders and add more colliders if you'd like.
Oh.
So, for example, we can see that right now, is this the left hand or the right hand? That is the right hand. I'm going to go to my left hand. You can see that right now, the left hand has no colliders on it whatsoever. It's not part of the Ragdoll. But to fix that, all we have to do is just add a collider component to it. I'll do like a capsule collider for now. And I'm also going to add a rigid body so I can be affected by gravity and flop around. And I'm also going to add a character joint component. And what this is going to do is it's going to make sure that our hand acts as a joint and is connected to our left forearm by dragging that into the connected body over here. And what's cool about the character joint is that you can adjust some of these limits for how the joint kind of works. So if you want to make it so that the hand can't really move around too much, you can do that. So if I click edit angular limits, this is kind of the angle of rotation where the hand can spin on each axis. So if you don't want the hand to be able to fly around and do crazy inhuman stuff, you can edit that here. But I don't know. I want to have fun, so I'm not going to touch it for now. And I'm also going to adjust this collider. It's pretty big, so I'm going to make it a little smaller like that. And again, you might need to play around with this. Like I'm going to change this direction to... Am I losing my mind? No, I'm fine. I'm going to change it to the y-axis over here. Or actually, you know what? I'm just going to make it easier for myself. I'm just going to use a sphere collider. There we go.
Love that.
Yes.
I do want to bring in this question here from Damon Federic, who says, doesn't Unity's rigid body system automatically put these components on the object that you assign in the window?
That is a great question. Let's find out. So if I come over to this GIFs object over here, and if I add a rigid body to it, I do believe it does actually add a... No, it does not. It does not automatically add a collider.
Yeah, these are separate things. What Damon may be thinking of is if you instantiate a prefab. Excuse me, not a prefab. I'm getting words confused too. A primitive. So if you were to make a cube or a sphere just straight, it will add those things to it. At the very least, it adds a box collider.
Exactly.
Let me see that in the inspector on the right.
Yeah. So I've just created this cube, and you can see it does come with a box collider. So I'm going to just delete this cube.
We don't necessarily want a rigid body and collider on every single game object, just because if it's not supposed to react, then we don't want the processing taking place. So that, especially if you're working on a mobile device, that's going to eat up your performance really quick if you've got tons of physics objects all around, and they're not really adding to the gameplay experience. So.
Exactly. All a rigid body does is it really allows an object to interact with Unity's physics system. So if your objects don't require any sort of physics, you really don't need a rigid body. So, where were we? Oh yeah, making the hand. One real quick thing is that you'll notice that our collider for our forearm over here is overlapping with our hand. And we don't want that because that's going to cause a little bit of weirdness just in the way. Yeah, it's going to make our hand freak out. So I'm just going to shorten that up a little bit so that these colliders are not touching. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And I can also adjust this sphere collider if I want to. I can, there we go. Make it a little bigger. Make sure it's nice and centered. Yeah, that looks fine. So after you've made your tweaks to your colliders, whatever you want to do for each component, if you want to adjust the arm collider, if you want to adjust the head collider, change the rotation of the head, if you don't want him to be able to spin his head all the way around like an owl, you can do that. But listen, I'm just here. I'm in the business of having fun. So I'm not going to touch that.
So let me get this right. All of the stuff that you just did manually was taken care of for every single one of those game objects that you plugged into on the Ragdoll Wizard?
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. So you can do this one of two ways. You can either go in and add a rigid body and collider and joint to every single component on your little humanoid model here, or you can just simply use our very magical, very cool Ragdoll Wizard. It's crazy.
So I think to provide additional context to the question that we just had from Damon, as they tried to provide a little bit of clarity, it does a decent job. It gets you most of the way there, but then Sarah went in with an additional step to further customize, further hone in, further make it a little bit more specific to the character model as we saw fit. So hopefully that clears that up a little bit.
It's not perfect, so you may have to go in and make some like itty bitty adjustments. But for the most part, it did a decent majority of the legwork for me. So leaves me time to make little minute adjustments and maybe add some colliders for our, I don't know, I could add stuff for the feet, for the hands. But in the interest of time, I'll just leave him with one right hand. His left hand, he's not feeling well. So now that we have done all of this, if I press play, and let me actually make sure that we can see the ragdoll. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to... Where did I put my camera? I put my camera here. I'm just going to move my camera out, and I'm just going to align it to view so that in our game view, we have a nice view of our elf. If I press play... There we go. Down he goes.
And as that loading bar went, I was like, ooh, I hope he just drops and crumbles. And I was not disappointed.
I know, like a sack of potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So now you can see that we have a working ragdoll. You know, obviously we could go in, make some adjustments, but for the most part, it works pretty well. Could raise them up.
Love the
I
belt.
like the legs that bounce. Yeah.
I know. Can move them around. There we go. Have fun with it. And that's essentially how you create a ragdoll. And that's the easy part. The little more technical part that we're going to be getting into is how to script for this ragdoll, how to activate this ragdoll during code. Because as you can see, as soon as I pressed play, he immediately ragdolled. And sometimes you don't want that. Like in GTA, when you get wasted, that's when the ragdoll starts. You're not spending the entire game just flopping around. We don't want that.
I've seen games like that. Sometimes those are fun.
Sometimes those are fun, like Gang Beasts, specifically, like the torso and above is like constantly ragdolling, which is hilarious. So, hey, if you want to do that, then all you have to do is set up these colliders, rigid bodies, and you're good to go. But for my project, what I want to do is I want my ragdolling to start when I shoot my elf out of this cannon here. So, let me show you what I've done to set this up. Inside of my cannon barrel prefab over here, I have added a game object called elf spawn transform. And what this does is if I add an elf to this transform and I reset his position and his rotation, I don't want to reset the scale, it basically puts him in the cannon, ready to go.
Kind of, yeah.
That's how you get shot out of a cannon, right?
Yeah, exactly. You could make some minor adjustments. Like I could put his arms in.
Exactly. Yeah. This is how your arms are supposed to go.
Exactly.
For aerodynamics, because you're going to fly.
This isn't normal? Not everyone does this when they're being shot out of a cannon. That's news to me. Weird. I'll put his arms in just for realism, as if anything about this is realistic in any way whatsoever. Where did my transform tools go?
You're on the view.
Here we go. That's the wrong elf. That's why.
And while we load up our cannons here, what I need from chat is we got to name our elves. If we're going to launch them and we're going to see them fly off and we're going to celebrate their, maiden voyage, so to speak, we need to know what name we're cheering. So taking suggestions now.
Wait, so I'm going to leave it to the chat, but I got a feeling that we're going to get an Elfie McElf face.
Ooh, I don't hate that. Rely on the internet.
But that seems a little cliche.
No. I mean,
what are you guys going to name him?
Good for a reason. We've got some suggestions on the Twitch side. Kitco says Steven. We've got Beegs saying Gilbert. Luis saying Legaflies, which I think is like a Legolas reference, which I like. Random Jazz calling out Snow. Rocky the Flying Elf, the Flying Elf from Chicken Run, from Bagardi. Crackle, Snap, and Pop. I mean, we've got two. Is there a third elf kicking around somewhere in there?
No, but there will be more of him because we have to reload the cannon.
Okay,
so
great.
There will be more elves coming. I almost don't want to name him. We could
probably just go elf by elf by elf, and everyone that gets launched has a new name.
It's gonna make me feel so bad if I launch him. Like he's looking up at me, like, please don't shoot me out of my cannon.
Sorry. Other great names. Sir Elfton John. Very good.
That's good.
That's a winner for me. That's a winner in my book.
Elf Alpha. Solid. That's a good one.
That's clever.
From Angel. These are very good suggestions. Keep them coming. We're going to have multiple names. So we might ask for them before we launch every single one. We'll pull one, name them, launch them. You know what I mean?
We got a lot of clever people in chat.
Yeah, especially
you guys.
Sorry, there's more. I know we're distracted, but
that's fine.
Elphys Presley. And
that's good.
Amelia Elfhart is solid. We're talking flight here. These are good. Okay. Well, you keep them coming. I'll keep reading and chuckling to myself. But Sarah, I don't want to detract too far.
We got some funny people. All right. So now that I have my elf loaded, ready to go, let's write some code. So the next thing that we're going to dive into is just some general stuff about the input system. The input system's been around for a little bit. And I know that we've been pretty strong in our recommendations to use it. And And in this project, I'm going to give you a little bit of insight on how to use the input system if you're not already using it. If you're interested, we actually have a quick start on the Pro Training platform that is free. That shows you, I know, that shows you how to get started with the input system. That actually, not to toot my own horn, but I made that. So if you watch that and you still don't get it, then you can get mad at me. I did a bad job.
Sarah, you've just done the most dangerous thing you could possibly do.
I know. What have I done? What have I done? Please don't do that. But yeah, if you want to learn more about the input system, you can check that out on Pro Training for free. So if I click on my Canon over here and I scroll down, we'll see that I already have this very conveniently placed Canon controller script. I don't know, maybe Santa gave that to me for Christmas. You can go away. I do have a license. So I have a little pre-made Canon script over here that if we have time towards the end, I can dive into a little more. But essentially, I am using the input system to trigger these on fire and on look methods. That is essentially going to control our Canon's firing and looking method. So I believe right now I have my actions binded, and I'll show you. Here we go. Here's my Canon action map. And this is something that the input system does great. You can easily bind and rebind controls on the fly with this very nifty window. So right now my fire action is bound to the spacebar on my keyboard, and I can add more bindings if I want. Like if I want a controller binding, I could do that. And my look action is bound to WASD on the keyboard. You know, just pretty typical setup. So let me show you. If I just bring my camera over here, line it to view. Eventually I'll attach the camera to the Canon, but if I come into our scene here, and the elf is probably going to flop around. Ignore that.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah, ignore him. You could see that when I use WASD, I can like move my Canon around. Oh my. Yeah, he's fine, guys. Don't worry about it. He's just fine. This is his day job. Don't worry about it. All right. And you'll also notice that I have some to-dos over here that I, as the programmer of this project, have been tasked to do. So the first thing I want to do in my start method is every time I start my project, I want to load an elf into my Canon. So I'm going to write a new method called load elf. And you can see that it just populates because down here I have pre-written a load elf function. However, it is empty. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to write my load elf function. You'll notice in our script here, we have a game object variable for the current elf that is loaded in the Canon. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set that current elf loaded equal, and you can see I'm using JetBrains Rider for this, and it'll autocomplete. Love that. But I'm going to instantiate a new projectile prefab. And in this case, I'm going to set that in my inspector to our elf prefab. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to instantiate at that elf spawner transform object I had, which is where, you know, he put him in the Canon and he's like ready to go. And I need to put a dot position here. There we go. And finally, I'm going to set my rotation of my elf here to the rotation of the transform object. And finally, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to parent my elf, or make my elf a child of the elf spawner transform. Yeah, the elf spawner transform. And there we go. And you might be asking, why are you doing that? Why are you childing it to that object? Let me show you. So like if I were to just do this and I were to come back in my project and let it load and do its thing. Here we go. I love playing the waiting game.
It builds anticipation. It's really
nice.
nice.
I know. Hurry up.
Oh, I mean, that's half our lives as developers is looking at that green bar. It's an amazing green bar. It's beautiful. You get familiar.
I skipped a step. I was so excited that I skipped a very important step. Also, sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the background. He has been upset all day by the post office.
Naturally.
I know. He's been very, very angry. But I need to actually turn this ragdoll into a prefab, just so that I can keep spawning him infinitely over and over. So I'm going to drag my object into the assets folder over here. And I'm going to just make a prefab variant because the original elf is already a prefab. But this is a special elf. He's got special colliders. And so now, if I want to use him, I could just drag him in the scene a million times. And he already comes with the colliders and everything. No extra work needed.
So I'm going to interject here and say that this is a great way to, if you're using assets that you've gotten from somewhere else and you want to preserve them and you've made changes, using your prefab variants is the best way to be able to preserve those assets and still make your own and have them live in custom folders.
Exactly. Because what if I still want to use the original elf that doesn't have all these ragdoll elements to it? I could
maybe
go
one
in
for a cutscene.
Exactly. You don't want him flopping around during a very important cinematic cutscene. Ruins the vibe. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my cannon here, and you can see that I have an unassigned projectile prefab variable in here. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drag my elf in here. I'm going to tell my script, this is the prefab that I want to load into this cannon. So if I've theoretically done everything correctly, if I delete this elf and I come back in here, he should spawn in when our project starts up because I have called the method here. Variable projectile prefab has not been assigned. Go away. Because we've done that now. I do that a lot when I'm developing. I will be so mean to Unity.
Well, yeah, they deserve it though.
There he goes. However, why isn't he inside of the... Oh yeah, he's not...
He started there.
Yes. You can see that when we turn our cannon, right now he's freaking out because, you know, all of his colliders and rigid bodies are on. We're going to fix that later. But you can see that when I turn my cannon, eventually he should be turning with the cannon. You know, we don't want him to just float in the air as the cannon turns. However, if I parent him to my elf spawner transform, there we go. And I go back. Did it save? Oh, yep, it did.
You're getting faster than Visual Studio and Unity can communicate.
I know.
You're using code, right?
I'm using Rider.
You're using Rider, okay.
I love Rider. # not sponsored, but I think Rider is my preferred. But yeah, now if I turn my cannon, he turns with the cannon. And so eventually when I have fixed his colliders and he'll just sit in there, you know, he'll move with it.
Well, not sponsored, but I will do an additional plug for Rider, especially if you're using dots. If you're doing ECS stuff, Rider has a ton of additional IntelliSense hints. I know it's not officially IntelliSense because that's branded, but the same thing. You know, the help that you get, there is a lot of additional macros and stuff specifically designed for Unity ECS, and it's great.
Exactly. And it's free for non-commercial use if you want to give it a try. # not sponsored. Before Rider, I was using Visual Studio Code. Loved that. And before that, I was using Community. Loved that. Really doesn't matter what you use. It's your personal preference. So after I have written my load elf function over here, inside of our on fire event, this on fire event is going to be triggered inside of this try fire cannon method. And if I can find that, because my code is not very organized. There it is. Now, the reason that I have a try fire cannon is because I don't want my cannon to fire every single time I press the space bar. I want to make sure that I have an elf loaded into the cannon before I actually go ahead with it. Because what am I firing? Exactly. I need to check to make sure that I actually am ready to go. So inside of my try fire cannon, it's going to check if I can actually fire my elf with this reversed if statement. If I am unable to fire the elf, then exit out of this method, return. We're not doing anything. And if this evaluates to true, if I can fire the elf, it's going to jump to this on fire event. However, before we do that, I also forgot we need to add inside of the load elf can fire equals true. Because once we're done loading the elf, we got to tell our script, all right, we're ready. Fire him. All right. And now I've created a to-do method for myself. Call a setup method on our elf. And this is where we're going to get into how to configure the elf's ragdoll properties to basically ragdoll when he's ready to go. So if I'm just going to let it load for a second, I'm going to come over to my prefab over here. And inside of this prefab, I'm going to add onto him a new script. So if I scroll down, new script, I'm just going to name this elf. Class called elf already exists. That's funny. You know what I forgot? I already made the script.
Ooh.
But
past
it's
you
empty.
is setting up current you.
I know. So we have this empty elf script. And what we're going to do in here is we're going to write the logic to actually activate the rigid body properties for the elf. So let's get this started. I'm going to create 2 lists, and I'm going to make one to store all of the colliders on our elf. So I'm just going to name this elf colliders. You want to make sure you're naming your variables in a way where you will remember what is their purpose. I'm victim to that. Sometimes I will name variables things, and then I'll come back and I'll be like, what is this for? So you can see that I'm making them public right now. They technically don't need to be public, but if you want to assign more of them in the inspector, feel free to do this. And I'm also going to create a public rigid body, spine rigid body. Because what I want to do is when I shoot my elf out of the cannon, I want to apply force to like the center of the elf. And okay. I would say that the spine is generally like the center of a body.
Usually
most of the time.
Dead center.
Sometimes.
Almost.
I don't know. Maybe some of you got a non-spine centered going on.
I guess technically center this way, but not this way. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I don't know how important that is, but I think it's a good starting spot for sure.
Exactly. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new awake function. And what awake is going to do is Unity is automatically going to call that function as soon as we instantiate our elf here. So this is going to be the first thing our script does. And it's also going to happen once. It's different from another Unity function like update, because update will run every single frame. But we only want this to run on the first frame that our elf is awake. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to populate our lists here with our colliders and rigid bodies. So we have a handy function over here, get components in children. Because if you'll remember, all of our body parts are actually children of this first main elf over here. And so we can use this function to basically loop through and grab all of them. So I'm going to specify.
You had the bull call out a moment ago. Game dev out of context is really strange. And I don't have much game development knowledge. And just like if I remove myself from knowing that we're creating something, and I know what these terms mean, But if I tap into my brain from like 3 months ago where I had no idea, and I'm just listening to the words as they hit my ears, it's wild. It's a little bit strange. We live in it's a weird time. Welcome to 2024.
Well, I mean, to pair that up, we also have functions for get components in parent.
We do.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, it's just as weird as far as context out of game development. So
I know.
Yeah, great.
my old gig was teaching Unity to high schoolers, and so whenever I had to talk about like parents and children, they were always like, "What?
What?
Why are we
making
children for the game objects?" And I'm like, "No. It's just a phrase. It's just a terminology thing." So yeah, it can be a little weird, some of the things that programmers have thought up with to name certain concepts. And you'll notice that we're getting an error here because this get component is going to return a different kind of data structure. It's going to return an array. However, I can do this handy little to list, and that fixes that. We are now turning this into a list, and what this is going to do is it's going to put all of our elf's colliders into this list. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to repeat this for the same exact... Oh, and would you look at that? Rider auto-completes it for me. How nice. So we're going to do the same exact thing here for the rigid bodies list, except we're just going to change this to rigid body. And I'm also going to create a new method called set gravity. And I'm going to put false in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to write a new method to basically enable or disable gravity for our elf. And it's going to be super simple. And the one thing I love about some code editors is that if you type in a method that doesn't exist and then a parameter, you can just come over here and just create the method. Bam! Done.
If you're using Visual Studio, the hotkey is control period for doing the same thing.
Yes.
Dang.
I know.
When we started talking about our allegiances to what software we're using, there was a bunch of people with different solutions, different like +1 to whichever, and I think it's great. And we talk about it all the time in these live streams, but using the right tool that works for you, right? Like if you have exceptional familiarity in one and 0 in the other, and that process of changing is going to be difficult and time consuming, use the one that works well for you. Like it makes sense. So I think we kind of just proved that a little bit.
All these IDEs do very similar things. It's whichever one you prefer. The one exception I would caveat that on is if you are using ECS, you should use Rider because they've made it better specifically for that.
Yes. Rider is my ride or die, baby. No pun intended. So, for my set gravity function, all I'm going to do a super simple for each loop. And I'm just going to name this like variable V. And for each variable inside of my rigid bodies list, because if you'll remember from earlier, a rigid body is what controls physics. And gravity, for those that didn't know, is physics. It's crazy.
You can't do this to me this close to the holiday season. Like,
I'm sorry.
That's all I'm going to think about.
I'm sorry you had to learn this way. It had to be said.
How is there gravity in the computer?
See.
Ooh.
That's a good
made
one.
up.
I'm fine. I'm okay.
Exactly. Our very smart programmers at Unity have approximated how gravity works through programming. And Unity does this all for you with the rigid body. You don't have to code your own physics unless you want to. So,
as someone that has coded the physics engine, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, not fun.
Maybe not ideal.
Many sleepless nights.
It's fine for like if you're in school and you're trying to learn how some of this stuff works, but like you learn this stuff for a class and then you carry on.
Exactly. So for each rigid body, which I'm calling V, inside of my list here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to access the use gravity property, and I'm going to set it equal to our Boolean B. So in this case, when I'm calling this set gravity method inside of my awake, I'm going to pass the false Boolean in here, and it's going to set use gravity to false. So when I first start up my game, my elf should not be using gravity. And we can test that right now.
Quick check, because I think I saw it, and I forget all the time. I think you missed adding your elf script to the elf prefab. You started to make a new one, and it wasn't there. Let's check, just to make sure.
Yeah,
you started to make a new one that already existed, and yeah.
Right.
This is teamwork right here.
All the time. This is pair programming, right?
Bam. There we go. So now, if I click play here, yay! So because he doesn't use gravity, he just kind of floats around. And there he goes. Bye. Oh, it's so fun. And if I click on him and I come down to my script over here, you can see that I'm sorry, the shadow in the background is taking me out. If I come over to my script over here.
Yeah, oh, great. Ship it.
You can see that all of my colliders and rigid bodies have been assigned. Okay, I gotta stop, or I'm not gonna be able to stop laughing at it. All right, great. The next thing I want to do is I'm actually going to turn off all of those colliders as well. So what I'm gonna do real quick is I'm just going to actually just create real quick a new I'll just copy paste this and I'll just do like set colliders, whatever. And inside of my elf colliders, I'm going to call the enabled function on them to set all of my colliders to disabled. So my elf will no longer have any active colliders, and he should sit very nicely in my cannon. So if we go back, come on. There we go. The suspense is killing me. Yay! There it goes. Look at that.
We did it.
Very natural.
Love it.
The design is very human. All right. So the next thing we got to do is we want to have a function inside of our elf that's actually going to launch him. We're going to do this inside of we're almost there.
I'm so excited.
So I'm going to create a public void, and I'm just going to call this setup because we're kind of setting up our elf to go. And inside of here, I'm going to take a parameter of a vector 3 called force. And inside of this function, the first thing I want to do is I actually want to remove the parent of this elf, because if I launch him and while he's in the air, I turn the cannon, he's going to turn in the air with the direction of the cannon. I found that out while I was making this. Yeah, it looked really weird. And I was like, what is happening? So I'm going to set his parent to null. And I'm also going to make sure that he keeps his position in our world. Because if I unparent him, he might move somewhere. The next thing I'm going to do is for the actual launching, I'm going to take my spine rigid body and I'm going to add force. And because we are already passing in this force vector here, just going to type that in. And I want my force mode to be impulse. So you can essentially specify what kind of force you want to add to this rigid body. And what impulse is going to do is it's going to add immediate force to our rigid body. So it's going to go like 0 to 100 real quick. Yeah. This is going to be
almost like it's an explosion.
Exactly. This is what you should be using for immediate explosions. And finally, I'm going to call a ragdoll function that does not exist yet. And what this is going to do is I want it to activate the gravity and activate all of my colliders. So, super simple. Create method ragdoll. Wow. And because I've already created these set gravity and set collider functions, I can just call them like this, saving myself a lot of time here. And I think our elf is set up. The only thing left to do is come into our cannon controller, and whenever we trigger an on fire event, we need to call the method that launches our elf. And luckily, inside of our load elf over here, we already have a variable that stores the current elf that is loaded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to access that current elf loaded, and I'm going to call that setup function, which is not working. That's fine, because I forgot to actually call the component on that elf. There we go. So we need to get the game object of that elf. We need to get the component, which is the script, and then we can call the setup function, and in here, we have to put a vector for force. And I believe in here, I have thought I had a force. Yeah, I have an explode force over here, which in the script is 9, but when I was playing around with it, it's actually 500. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come into, sorry, I'm checking myself to make sure that I'm not doing this wrong.
That's
I have
okay.
horrible memory. And
You're doing
so
great.
when it comes to stuff like this, I got to double, triple check, or else I'm going to not do this right. There we go.
I think that's an important lesson for a lot of people. And if I can take just a second here, Sarah, I don't want to interrupt your flow. You're doing great. But I do just want to, I'm following along with some of the conversation happening in the YouTube and Twitch chats, as we often do. Again, if you're watching live, feel free to hop in there and help each other, chat with each other, ask us questions, those types of things. But we're seeing a lot of, hey, why didn't you do it this way? Oh, you could have also done it this way. And I think it's a good time to take a moment and step back and acknowledge that there are going to be a number of solutions to every problem, to everything that you're trying to set up when creating games. And it's actually a conversation that we've had about, we might be making some content around, hey, we need to get X mechanic implemented in a game, and these are the different sets of parameters, and showing the different approaches to those types of things. So again, this is the way that we are showcasing it. It is not the only way. It is the best way in some situations, maybe not in all of them. But again, it's just always something to keep in the back of your mind. There's always a million ways to do different things and have different approaches here.
Exactly.
Especially if you're working with a company, the correct way to do it is if that company has their own standards written, follow that.
Exactly. And I'm mostly doing it this way for good readability, because I know we have a lot of people who are new to Unity, new to coding in general. And I generally feel like encapsulating everything in separate methods makes it a little easier for beginners to kind of take in all of this. And again, we all have personal ways that we code. This is just kind of the way that my brain is able to, easily understand this stuff.
And honestly, I'll even go a step further there. It's not just for beginners and isolating your functionality. Me, as someone that would do code reviews in the past as a project lead, I would look for things like what you're doing with your functions. You have a function that does one thing and one thing only. It goes through that loop. That's what it does. And now you can use this over and over in different places to build up more complex functions. The biggest thing that I didn't want to see as a code reviewer is repeated code. Because if it's copy and pasted, that means that if there is an error in that, you've got to hunt in multiple spots to fix that error.
Exactly. Encapsulation is something you should absolutely be using when you're coding. Even if your function literally has one function, that is still better than just, like Zane said, copy pasting that code. And so, where was I? Right, setup. So, right. So this setup takes a vector 3, but our force variable here is a float, and that's not going to work. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the forward vector of my barrel transform. So I'm going to do barrel transform.forward. And what this is going to do is it's going to get the direction that the barrel is facing. And I believe it does this on the z-axis. It uses the z-axis to determine what direction the cannon is currently facing. And I want to shoot my elf forward in the direction that the cannon is actually facing. So I'm going to put my forward in here. And then I'm going to multiply this by our, what did I name that variable? Explode force. I'm going to multiply this by our explode force. And now we should get no error because we are feeding it a vector times a float. And what that's going to do is it's going to multiply every component in that vector by this explode force. And I believe, if I have not missed anything, upon pressing the spacebar, I'm going to trigger our on fire. It's going to check to make sure whether we actually can fire our cannon. And this is going to be based on whether we've loaded an elf. And if all this checks out, we're going to shoot him into the sky.
Oh my god, we're almost there. I'm so excited.
I know. Let's see.
Also, Explode Force, good name for a metal band.
Maybe someone should get on that.
Explosion Elves.
Exactly.
Dang.
All right.
Album.
Let's try it.
We're ready. Are we about to launch our first elf?
I think.
Okay. Have we dubbed this one Elfton John?
Actually, I'm going to keep the suspense up a little longer. You know what I'm going to do? Let's turn this into a bit of a game. I'm going to put my camera on my Canon over here. This is going to be fun. Let me put my game tab over here.
Ooh, we got barrel view.
Yeah, except we're going to get a little more of a first-person view. So let me bring my camera up here. Come on.
Quickly.
Be nice. There we go. I'll rotate it up a little bit. Just for funsies.
Blast.
And now we have first-person elf launching action.
But
what?
But do we have a name?
For the cannon or for the elf?
The cannon needs a name too.
The cannon also does.
Yeah,
for sure.
So
what are we naming?
Do we have a name for the elf? Elton John.
I think this one's Sir Elton John. I think is pretty good. I want Sir Elton John first. We can come back to Elvis Presley. That one's easier to read than it is to say.
Elvis Presley.
And I also saw way back in some of the comments, someone did a great job of turning all of our names into elf.
Yeah. Oh, really good. Really good. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Shout out to the fireworks. Oh my goodness. Is it time for the maiden voyage?
And you know what? We'll even put the scene tab here so we can get a nice aerial view. Beautiful.
Oh
all right.
Are we going to do a countdown?
Should we do a countdown? It's not going to be very climactic because I haven't added like any audio cues or anything. So it's just going to be like
I'll make the sound effects, don't worry.
All right.
Are we ready?
Godspeed.
Hold on. Before we go, Weird Elf Yankovic. Really come back to that one. All right.
All right. 3, 2, boing. That's funny. Why did that happen?
Oh, we got an error. Oh, the anticipation gold.
I forgot to assign my spine.
Hey.
We're almost there. We're almost there.
There it is.
What?
It happened.
I forgot to assign my actual spine transform inside of this elf. And this is just coding, man. This is just how it is. Here we go.
I do this all the time. I get excited. I do my code. Yes, let's test. And
assigning things in the inspector is my Achilles heel. I always forget to do it.
From the responses in chat, it seems like everyone has done this. It was bound to happen. Classic. Yep, this happened.
Yep.
This is why I always do things in code, because I will not remember to assign things.
No.
All right.
We'll be fair. Like if you're working with designers, like they want to see you got to make it easy for them. But that's when you got division of labor. We don't have that. So, are we ready?
Part of the process. I do want to call out. Tipsy Monk said the elf chickened out. It's spineless. I really like that one. All right.
I'm going to be thinking about that one when I go to bed tonight. All right. Godspeed. There he goes.
Nice.
Where'd he go?
He went way back there. Did he go off of the map?
Where did he land? Oh, he's inside he's inside the Christmas tree.
So
there we go.
Your Christmas tree doesn't have colliders.
No, it does not.
Oh, yeah.
I could add colliders, but I'm being a lazy game developer. And you'll notice we already have another elf loaded up, ready to go.
We're ready to go.
And I believe I have set the reload time to like 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds, I'm going to reload a new elf. So if I get rid of those gizmos.
So this is great. We've got the Ragdoll MVP.
Boing.
So if we're going to keep loading these and loading them, we need a name generation script, right?
Boing. We could.
That way, and we can assign that to a designer where it can just be a list of names and it goes through them. And
I'm having like way too much fun with this.
This is great.
This is very good.
But this is essentially how you can use ragdolls inside of Unity, and like we could make a game out of this. I could have like a bunch of targets set up, and like if my elf hits the target, you know, I get some points. I could add like a crosshair to this, make it the true FPS experience. But that is essentially how to work with ragdolls inside of Unity and make a super simple MVP over here. And I'm going to keep doing this because this is really fun.
I love this. This is super cool. This is super fun to bring everyone together and showcase this right now. We do have a couple of people that have requested, could we attach a camera to the elf so that we could go on a journey, an adventure with said elf?
Ooh.
Can you get that quickly?
Could I do that
what do you think? Again, don't feel like if it's not ready for you, if it's not if it's not tucked away in the folds of your brain, don't feel like you have to. But
do you want me to? How do you feel?
So the way I'm thinking about this is that every time I load up an elf and I set that equal to current elf, I could just parent the camera to that elf and call it a day.
That's one way.
That's been some of the suggestions to come through.
Exactly.
I think for like what we're doing and try and get it quickly, that's probably the best way to go. But I'll offer another suggestion for people to try at home.
Good. Love that.
Is to take advantage of Sin Machine to get a virtual camera and make a virtual camera part of a child of that elf prefab. And it should be the case. You're supposed to use Sin Machine in a way that you only have one virtual camera on at a time. I believe as a new one is spawned, that it will take front and center. So this would require some additional work to make sure that after a certain period of time we go back to the Canon's camera, and then after it's fired we swap over to the new one. Things along those lines. But that seems like a great way to get that lead time to be very nice and smooth and automatic. But yeah,
exactly. There's a big difference between programming for prototyping and programming for production.
Of course.
This is gonna be game jam level.
This is literally a game jam level project. And like, let's see if I could speed run this. All right. Okay. So all right. I'm gonna do this as quickly as I humanly can. Make a game object for the camera. There we go. I'll assign that. I think I can actually. Can I do this? Equals main camera.
Yeah. Camera.main.
Camera.main. Right. And there we go. Bam. Easy. Why is it giving me a thing?
Is that this is deprecated at this point, right?
Yeah. Who cares?
It's old API.
Yeah. Whatever.
I remember old API.
Yeah. And next what we're going to do is we're going to set the camera. We would need to do this like every frame, wouldn't we? We would. No. We wouldn't have to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit game object. Oh no, we have to do this to the transform. Right. Transform dot set parent, and we're going to set that parent. We have to do this after we have created the new elf. So let's do that. And then we're going to set this to the current elf loaded dot transform. And we don't care about its current position. Now, if this works, I can't guarantee this will work, but we'll see.
It may look funny.
Yeah, it's going to look a little weird, but considering we did this in like 0.5 seconds, I'm ready to call it a day. Done. Yeah, Ship it. Ship it. All right. Come on. There we go. We got this. Is it going to work? No, it doesn't. Oh, it's because I have the camera parented still. Hold on. Trust me. Just trust me.
I do. Implicitly.
Is it because... Oh. Okay, something's happening. Maybe I need to... Hold on. Let's live debug this. We're live debugging.
Right. If you're feeling good about it. Again, I know we threw something at you on the fly here. I don't want you to feel pressured to do it if it's, but.
Well, I can show my debugging process real quick.
Sure.
So let's launch him. Let's pause and leave him. I'm so sorry.
Perfect.
And we can check.
So the main camera is there as a child.
Yeah.
But
its position is not updating.
Yeah, if you unpause.
Some suggestions from chat, and thank you for providing suggestions. Remove game object parent to transform, not game object, increase load time. I don't know if any of this is helpful. I'm just passing it along. I don't know if that sparks anything in there.
Game object. I'm sorry, you said that way too fast, and it just sounded like words.
It's because I combined 3 different people's suggestions here.
What?
So, sir, you don't have anything else that is manipulating the main camera anywhere?
No, I shouldn't. Or, you know what? We can do this the quick and dirty way, honestly. And this is sometimes what I'll teach my old students to do. Just literally, you know what we're going to do? This is not, don't ever do this in production. This is bad. This is bad. Don't do this. But I'm going to do it anyways. We're going to set the camera dot transform dot, I clicked insert, dot position equal to our current elf loaded dot transform dot position. This is bad. Don't do this. But I'm allowed to do this.
That's the brute force way.
Do as we say, not as we do.
Exactly. I'm allowed to do this because I work here. All right. So now, if I have done everything correctly, you know what it might be? Is this tagged main camera? Okay. New plan. Get in there. There we go. This is like the fastest, most frantic way I've ever coded something. Oh, come on. Why is it not following? I'm probably definitely doing something wrong, but I'm like, I'm going to be so real with y'all. I didn't have time to like grab anything to eat before this. All I had time to do was make a cup of coffee. And so I'm running on my one meal of the day, which was caffeine.
Hey, I do want to point out that before we sprung an additional improv challenge on you, everyone was like, thank you so much for this. I want you to take a second and make sure that we at least acknowledge that you crushed this. You guys came in here and you showed us something from point A all the way to Z, or Z because I'm Canadian, and you were very thorough, informative, educational. Everybody, I think, learned something here today. We are in extra credit mode. You already picked up your A+ on the assignment.
Nice.
We are in extra credit here. So even if we're like, hey, we actually can't get this done, I want you to be aware we crushed it. You guys crushed it.
I'm going to spend the rest of my day mulling over this.
You don't need to.
Right.
We can call it here if you would like.
Maybe I'll call it here, only because we're running a little low on time.
We're running low on time. You need to eat something. That is very important. And I think it's interesting that we've had some conversations about game jams. And when I've asked a number of people, like, what's your number 1 tip for game jam? Someone's like, snacks, sleep, and water. Make sure you take care of yourself as a human first. It's very important. So I don't want to stretch beyond those limits for us. It's just the stakes are way too low to make that make sense.
I know. It's my own competitiveness.
Way.
I'm a competitive person. If someone gives me a challenge, I'm going to do that challenge. But yeah, it would probably take me a little longer than like 10 minutes to figure this out.
Yeah. No stress whatsoever. We'll call it there. There's some more suggestions within the chat. Which again, if you guys want to test this out on your own and give it a shot, like that's
what? Challenge for you guys. Figure this out and then post it.
Yep. We've got a new spot in the Unity Discord, which I'll put links to right now, actually, where we have have a live stream section. So we'll have the recurring schedule there, the upcoming schedule there, the VODs. And if you guys want to start up some conversations around the live streams, you can put it there as well. I'll open up something new for you in that space. If you guys want to post it there, that would be fantastic. We'd love to see it.
I want to see everyone's solution.
But of course, right? And there's been a lot proposed, and I get the feeling some people have the answers, which I think is incredible. And again, you guys absolutely crushed this because that was extra credit. Don't even worry about that. Everything that you guys did today, I found incredibly interesting, well presented, and I hope that our Unity community took away a lot from this. There's been a ton of really positive comments. Awesome stream as always. We've got lots of thank yous from people. Sleepy's Space Loss says, I want to be Sarah when I grow up. So lots of great feedback here, and I'm really, really grateful for it. Sarah, Zane, thank you so much for joining us, for bringing essentially a free session to our Unity community here. I would love to have you guys on a future stream doing something else. If we can make it happen, I would really, really love it. But you guys crushed it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Always down to come back, and I'm glad people got something out of this. It was a very truncated version of what would probably be a bit of a longer session if you are doing this from the pro training team. We're kind of shortening this down and speeding it up for time. But normally this is a little less rushed. But I'm glad people enjoyed it.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, from the engagement, from the comments, from the numbers, all of this seems like it was very, very well received. So you guys crushed it.
Good.
Awesome. Thank you, Jackson. Thank you, Screen.
Yes.
Of course.
Thank you, chat. Thank you, Jackson.
And thank you, Sarah. This is great.
No problem.
Awesome. So I'll say goodbye to you guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll chat again once we cut the stream here. But again, thank you guys so much. All right, gang. It's just you and me, Unity community. We're here. We're chatting. Just wrapping up here. We'll let you guys know that we talked about it a couple of times, but this is the last stream that we're doing of the year here. So make sure to come back and see us again in January. If you guys want to keep up to date on what we're doing and when we have live streams, check out the Discord. I believe check out the discussions. We're going to be starting to post some stuff in there as well. But I want to extend a massive thank you to you all for being here, for joining us, for being a part of the Unity community. It is my whole job to bring you these live stream, this live stream content. And I hope that you guys are enjoying it. I hope that you're having a good time with it. I want to continue to bring you content that you enjoy, that you can connect with. So thank you so much. I hope you all have a happy and safe, enjoyable holiday season. Please take care of yourselves and take care of each other as well. Of course, it's a very special time. Make sure we're looking out for each other. That's my personal request to all of you. But again, connect with each other in the Discord discussions, however you see fit. I'm so very grateful to be a part of this community. You guys are awesome. Until we see you all again next year, everybody, my name is Jackson, and we'll see you again soon. Bye, everyone.